I haven't seen a tuner or a non-tuner in 6 months, ever since the fish synchro summoned themselves to space. Space.
What was wrong with the water? Ah! Wait!
The fish aren't the only thing on the beach capable of tuning. Yes, the birds. That's it! I can teach the birds to synchro summon. It'll be easy. Don't you want to be Baron Extenders? Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. Time for another week of pretending that Sprite and Tier Limit don't exist. It's crazy. Dabble is going to have a huge impact on the wider metagame, but mostly just in terms of what staples we're playing. We're still making Kit Kalos, folks. But let's just cope together and pretend that the OCG simply did not have the true format-destroying super threat, Ghoti.
Fish are friends.
So here's the list. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck just got a huge redesign, but it's still the #1 place to go for a pack simulator, a card database, and a wealth of strategy articles. I personally use the site to post every 10-minute testing list and every Chalice Line Monthly Top Cut entry. Give it a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. Now let's get into Ghoti. Ghoti is a series of fish that live in space named after an 18th century linguistics joke. I fucking love Yu-Gi-Oh! These spacefaring scallops dip in and out of the cosmic ocean known as the Banished Zone. The tunas all have the ability to summon themselves back after they've been banished and perform a quick synchro a la Formula Synchron, and the non-tunas all have effects that make that easier. This is in service of a series of slippery synchros that extend, set up, and enable Ghoti of the Deep Beyond, which banishes the entire board on summon. Now, there are a lot of ways to build these banishers. Most of the Ghoti lists you're going to see online are full to bursting with garnets to enable a Deep Sea King Coelacanth line. And while I love the boy, he's one Ash Blossom away from extinction. As I've done before on this channel, you can throw them into a deck full of incidental synergies like Mutant or Thunder Dragon, but I don't think either of those strategies have nearly the teeth necessary to compete with Tier. That's why this time we are playing them straight up and with staples. Oh, and because they can extend off a 6-star synchro, we're also playing a skater's younger sister, Supe. Yeah! Who's the top Earthbound Immortal support retrain now that Magical Dragon's gone? God, I miss him. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, the staples. If you can afford to play 3 copies of Dimension Shifter, you probably should, and this deck loves the Banished Zone. 3 Fenrir, a phrase that you will be hearing a lot post-Dabble. We've got 1 copy of Druid Worm and 3 Magnamoot. Usually you'll want to be playing 2 Magnamoot, but we are hard-pressed for starters. We've got 3 copies of Supe Duskwalker and 1 Supe. This is the pseudo-garnet of this setup, and this makes a 6-star synchro, which is integral to most of this deck's plays. 3 copies of Lifeless Leaffish. This is a pretty good normal summon for the strategy. 3 copies of Shift Fairy of the Ghoti. This can be banished from the graveyard. Target a fish you control. It gains 500 till the end of the turn, and during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, you can special it. During your opponent's main phase, you get to Quick Synchro. Same with Paces. It has the return and Quick Synchro effect, but it can be banished from the field to special a fish monster from your hand, except for Paces. New card alert! Zep Ruby of the Ghoti can be banished from your hand to target a fish monster in your graveyard and banish it. During your opponent's turn, if this card is banished, you can special summon it. That doesn't happen during the standby phase, it's whenever you want. And if it's special summoned, you can immediately after this effect resolves, perform that sexy synchro. After that, we've got 2 copies of Enoch. If this is normally special summoned, you can target a banished level 4 or lower fish monster, special it in defense, but negate its effects, and you can banish a fish monster from your hand or face-up field to add a Ghoti trap from your deck to your hand. We do have a target for that. 2 copies of Snopios, Shadow of the Ghoti. Oh, I know I'm going to mess up this name. During the main phase, you can banish 2 fish monsters from your hand or graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, and if the card is special summoned, you can target a face-up card on the field to banish it when it leaves the field. If this card is banished, you can banish 1 fish monster from your graveyard to add it back to your hand. And finally, Ixip, Omen of the Ghoti. If a fish monster is banished, you can special summon this card from your hand, and during the standby phase of the next turn after it was banished, you can target one of your Ghoti traps that is banished or in your graveyard to set it. After that, we've got 3 copies of the Most Distant Deepest Depths. This card does everything the archetype could ever want. While you control a fish synchro monster, this card can't be destroyed or banished by card effects, and the next couple of effects are hard onces. You can banish a fish monster from your hand or graveyard to add a Ghoti from your deck to your hand, and if a fish monster is normal or special to your field while it's in your graveyard, you can target a fish monster you control, banish it, and if you do, cycle this card back to the grip. We've got a copy of Terraforming as well as a Called by the Grave. We've got 3 Infinite Impermanents, and then 1 piece of Ghoti Chain, which allows you to banish a fish monster you control to special a Ghoti that is banished or in your hand, deck, or graveyard and has a different original name than the monster banished to activate this this card, and Ghoti Fury, which can target a fish monster you control, a monster your opponent controls, banish them both until your next standby phase, and if a fish monster is special summoned to your field while it's banished, you can banish this card from your graveyard to face up a spell and trap zone to increase the attack of all fish monsters you currently control by 100 for all that you have currently banished. In the extra, we've got Chungus. That's right, we're allowed to play good synchros. This card synergizes extremely well with the banish-oriented fishes. We've got a Baron de Fleur, Ghoti of the Deep Beyond, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, White Aura Whale, 2 copies of Oskan the Bicorned Ghoti, new card, Googlolim, Spear of the Ghoti. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish that opponent's monster, and then during your opponent's standby phase, you can banish this card. Then if all the materials used for the Synchro Summon are in the graveyard, special summon all of them, but banish them when they leave the field. We're playing a White Aura Dolphin, and 3 copies of this unbelievable starter, Arion Pos, Serpent of the Ghoti. If this card synchro summoned, you can banish a level 6 or lower fish monster from your deck. If this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can target a fish monster in your graveyard, banish the target. Then you can add a fish monster with an equal or lower level from your deck to your hand. It's an unbelievable float attached to an unbelievable search, and that's why we're playing 3. Finally, we've got Nightmare Phoenix, Sprite Elf, and Abyss Keeper. We will not be using it for the silly coelacanth setups, but we will be using it. So with that, let's check out the games. Our first match is up against Adventure ABC Therion, and remember when we all thought we were going to have to take this deck seriously? Our opponent's going first, and this game showcases just how powerful the effect of Ghoti of the Deep Beyond can be. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Pot of Prosperity for 6, finding off the top. Oh god, anything they could ever want. They elect to go for the Hanger here. Makes sense, Hanger is probably the most powerful card in this deck. They're going to go for a copy of Water Enchantress to get them a Rite of Air Messire and a Fateful Adventure from deck before setting the Hanger and grabbing themselves a B. They're going to normal summon C, which triggers the effect of the Hanger, which allows them to trigger in sequence the effect of the Fateful Adventure and equip a Union Driver from deck. Union Driver will tag out for another B, which will then special summon itself, so they can use the effect of the Fateful Adventure again. They're going to activate the effect of the Wandering Griffin Rider in sequence, pitching the Draco back and equipping it as well before making a Platinum Gadget, triggering the effect of the C and the effect of B so they can get material in hand, then summon the A from hand, go into an ABC, and then activate the effect of the Platinum Gadget to summon a B and protect their ABC from spell effects. They'll set a called by and pass back an impressive turn 1 board. We're going to begin with the most distant, deepest depths, which is going to fetch out the ABC negate. We'll chain the effect of the Druid Worm and then go to combat to walk it into the ABC, destroying this copy of Wandering Griffin Rider. From here, we can just do our plays. We're going to go Paces into Schiff. From here, we're going to go for an Exceep and make the Serpent. We'll activate the effect of the Serpent, banishing a copy of the Shadow, and we'll cycle the Shadow back and pass back to our opponent. Now, this looks pretty innocuous, but this is a crazy end board. Our opponent's going to get everything they want back and equip their monster with a copy of C a little too late. We're going to go for the effect of Paces. That'll summon itself, and the effect of the Schiff as well in standby. They'll go to main and activate the effect of the C. We'll chain the effect of the Paces in order to get ourselves a copy of Oskan. We'll trigger the Serpent. They'll called by the Serpent, but it doesn't matter. We have the Schiff on field, which means we already have access to Deep Beyond. We'll trigger the effect of the Deep Beyond, and oh, that feels good to see. Our opponent's going to Prosperity for 3, and they find off the top. Literally the best card remaining in the deck. No big deal. I think in a simplified board state, we are massively favored. We're so far up on card advantage, even after the Hanger. They're going to get in for 950 and pass back to us, and I think we should be able to wrap this up. We'll draw for turn. We'll bring back the Deep Beyond, who is currently at a whopping 4,500 attack points. We're going to go for Shadow, activate the effect of the Shadow, and then activate the effect of the Ascon as well, bringing it back additionally. We'll go for Zep and then make Chungus, using Called By to turn Chungus into a removal spell. Completely unnecessary, but very funny, before hitting with a 7,000 attack Deep Beyond. Our second match is up against Bestial Branded, and this game showcases both our deck's extremely low ceiling and an inability to play through common sweepers. We're going to begin with a copy of Fenrir. Now, Fenrir is good here because it gets us material we can discard for the Duskwalker. We'll go for Supe and summon a Supe from deck. Then afterwards, I suppose we might as well make the Serpent. We'll go for the effect of the Serpent in order to banish a Shift, then activate the most distant, deepest depths, set a copy of Chain, and pass back to our opponent. Our opponent's going to begin after allowing us to return the Shift to our side of the field with an Albion. They're going to send a copy of Opening and then activate Lubellion's effect. From here, they're going to normal summon a copy of Aluber. We will let that resolve, and the Boober de la Duber has found Branded Fusion. We're going to chain Schiff, and they're going to chain Super Poly, allowing them to go into Garua and directly into Mirror Jade, drawing a card in the process. They'll banish our last remaining monster, and oh god, this doesn't look good. They'll go for Magnemute. We'll Magnemute their Magnemute target, but they have also opened Ghost Spell, which means this is literally lethal. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing Tearlament, and woo! Did we ever open the FTK? Eat my Dimensional Shifter! Okay, the rest of this hand is pretty bad, so we're going to have to draw something crazy off the top. That's something crazy. We're going to go for Terraforming. That's going to get us the most distant, deepest depths. We'll activate the effect of the distant, deepest depths, banishing Zep, and okay, now we have lost the game. We're going to summon Fenrir, activate the effect of the Fenrir in order to grab a Fenrir, and we're just doing Fenrir beats, baby. 24 in. Hope that our opponent does not have literally anything. Unfortunately, they reveal that they do. There's Perlino. Perlino's going to grab Merly. They're going to pitch the Merly for the Sheeran effect. They're going to summon the Sheeran, mill 3, trigger the effect of the Merly to go into a, you guessed it, Kitkalos. They'll activate the effect of the Kitkalos. We thankfully do get to banish that Kitkalos, but not before our opponent Havnesses us. Off the Havness, they find Rhino Heart and Havness, which allows them to pretty much do everything they could ever want. They're going to go for Rhino Heart and for Havness. They're going to shuffle those bad boys back for a Mud Dragon and then follow it up with a Rhino Heart activation. That's going to send from deck to graveyard another Sheeran, which they refuse to activate here. They'll just get in 24, 21, 2000, and then in main phase 2, they're going to go into, shockingly, a copy of the big boy himself, Dark. They'll trigger the effect of the Dark in order to bring back Dimension Shifter. Come on, no need, and end on a Masquerena. We'll draw for turn. I guess we can Fenrir again, right? They're going to go for a Masquerena. That's going to make a Sprint, and I can't believe this deck gets to play Sprint. They're going to sprint for a copy of Merly. The Merly will activate, which will allow them to go into... Oh, Kitkalos again. It never ends with this deck. They're going to send a Havness, trigger the effect of the Havness. They're going to shuffle back the Kitkalos for Lulu. This is not a card I am excited to have to deal with for the next couple of sets. They're going to use the Celiac to negate the effect of the Dreadreef, and of course, it returns. So we do get over the Sprint, but nothing else. We'll pass back to our opponent, and this should be the end of the game. They're going to go Perlino here in order to get a Rhino Heart, then activate the effect of the Rhino Heart in order to send a Havness. They're going to trigger the effect of the Havness. We'll trigger the effect of the Fenrir. They'll trigger the effect of the Celiac, and that's all of my onboard tricks exhausted. From here, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to lethal. They're going to go for, you guessed it, a copy of Kaleido Heart. They're going to trigger the Kaleido Heart and the Perlino in order to wipe our entire field, and then proceed to combat to kill us. So it's time for game 2, and while this doesn't have any auto wins in it, it does look a lot better. We're going to begin with a copy of Fenrir. We're going to activate the Fenrir effect to grab a Fenrir from deck to hand before activating the most distant, deepest depths, banishing the Shift for a Paces. We'll pitch the Paces for a Supe Duskwalker, then summon a Supe from deck so we can make the Snack. We'll activate Serpent's effect, banishing the Shadow, then activate Shadow's effect, banishing the Paces, and returning it to hand. We'll set Infip and Pass, then in standby we'll get back both Shift and Paces, which is a huge setup for when our opponent starts making plays. They've got a lot of them available in this hand. They're going to begin with a copy of Sheeran. They hit some really sick stuff off of Sheeran, so they're actually going to go for a really early Kaleido Heart here. They go Kaleido Heart, we chain Fenrir, they chain Havness, we chain, I guess, Infib targeting Sheeran. Why not, you know? They're going to go for the Havness here, and then afterwards they can trigger the effect of the Scream and the Merly in sequence. We're going to go for Shift in response to make Ozcon. They're going to cycle 2 of these bad boys for Mud Dragon of the Swamp, and then at resolution we can activate Serpent's effect in order to banish that Shift, and Pace's effect in order to make Deep Beyond. We'll fire Deep Beyond, but unfortunately that IF is in the Inburn column, you idiot! Oh my god, we're still in the game, baby! We're going to go for Shadow. We'll activate the effect of the Shadow and the effect of the Zep. That'll summon the Zep, and then afterwards we can trigger the effect of the Zep in order to make an Ozcon. We'll trigger the effect of the Ozcon in order to snipe that back row there. We'll add back that Shadow and trigger the effect of the Ozcon again in order to cycle itself, and then in standby, they're all coming back, baby. Back to the shores of the great cosmic ocean. Every single one of my powerful Ghoti beasts. We'll make Big Chungus, and then we're going to go for Shadow. Afterwards, we'll trigger the effect of the Big Chungus, and the effect of the Shadow, and the effect of the Ozcon in order to summon itself, and we are not done there. Just kidding, we're totally done there. That's lethal. So it's time for that all-important Game 3 and 2 Fenrir in the opener again. What did I do to deserve this? Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Lubellia, and this game showcases just how powerful the Bestials can be in Tearlament specifically. They're going to go Rhino Heart into Havness in order to make a Kitkalos, then activate Kitkalos to get a copy of Celiac from deck to hand. From here, they can activate the effect of the Sheeran, pitching a Bestial, and then triggering it alongside a Scream that they hit off of the Sheeran. They're going to go ahead and grab another Celiac, and then send a Rebranded to the graveyard before going for the old Yoinky Sploinky with Kitkalos, milling 5, one of which is a Sheeran, which allows them to fusion summon a copy of Lulu. They're going to go for Magnamut here, trigger the effect of the Magnamut, the effect of the Lubellian in graveyard, and then go ahead and grab themselves a branded beast. Afterwards, they'll make Masquerena and Elf, set 2 and pass, then activate Magnamut at end step, and Beast in order to set Rebranded. We're going to draw for turn. This is a decent opener. We're going to begin with a copy of Fenrir. They're going to activate Rebranded here in order to get back Magnamut and trigger the effect of the Beast and Magnamut, which is going to send our Fenrir to the graveyard. No big deal. We opened 2, but actually huge big deal because they have Called By. Afterwards, we're going to go for the most distant, deepest depths. That will resolve, but our opponent's going to get a Masquerena as well. We'll go for Fenrir as a comedy gag before firing off distant, deepest depths, getting that Shift out of our hands so we can tribute summon an Enoch. We're going to go for Enoch. They will negate the effect with the Celiac, and then afterwards we'll attempt to go to the battle phase. It will be met with an activation of the IP Masquerena, and they will go ahead and make themselves a copy of Apollosa as well. This is just extremely frustrating. We'll go for Supe, they'll go for Lulu, and let's just get out of here. This is not worth sitting through. So we're back with the deck, and sheesh, RJ and I are going to have to hurry up. The ocean's not doing so hot. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, the interactions this deck puts up are extremely unique. People are prepared for a lot in Sprite tier format, which is why it's nice to have setups that do something so fundamentally different than those decks. 2, the recovery on this thing is immense. Honestly, it often feels like Weather Painter, where you just summon a bunch of guys from the banished zone to go plus 18 during standby. And 3, fish are cute. And the cons. 1, it's not consistent. Not at all. You've got to get a pretty specific set of monsters in your opener if you want to even remotely access this deck's ceiling, and that's a big ask. 2, the engine itself is rather weak. It's got next to no flexibility, so you're often relying on the good stuff in this format, the Bestials, Fenrir, and Shifter, to do the heavy lifting for you. And 3, there are not any one-card starters. This kind of seems like a prerequisite to playing this format, but needing to open specific hands of 2+ cards is a huge liability. All in all, it's not enough yet. The pieces of a competent deck are all there, but time will tell if we'll get them, or if Konami's just gonna Libromancer us again.